If you clicked on this video, you most probably know the feeling. You have set a new goal, you are ready for a new me phase, and you really want to get into it. But then life gets in the way. And after a few weeks, you do that occasional session, but most of the sessions you had imagined you will do, you skip. Don't worry. In this video, I show you how you can actually get started with your training and stick with it this time so that you can achieve the goals that you have set for yourself. Welcome back to my channel, my friends. And if you are new here, hi, I'm Elisa, a cognitive science master student who likes to explore how challenging yourself guided by science can improve your body, but especially your mind. And as a cognitive scientist, I like to see things from different perspectives, and I like to connect the research around physiology and your body and training science and connect it to the mental side of things as well, so that they can go hand in hand together and you get the best experience in your journey. In this series, we have identified the goals, we have seen how you consider you and your personality in the process, and we have created a training routine or a training plan that suits you, so your schedule, your needs, your personalities, and that suits your goal and the actionable steps that are attached to it. But the best training routine is nothing if it is not acted upon. So in this video, I want to show you how you can actually get started with that nice plan that you have set for yourself and how you can actually stick with it easily with some mental but also physical guidance so that it is easy for you to follow along the plan that you have imagined for yourself to finally achieve your goals. Quickly before we get into the 5 tips, if you're not subscribed, please do so that we can grow together and that we can be on the journey together. And please comment if it was helpful and what was helpful. I do these videos for you as a watcher, and I want to provide some insight into science, but also how you can make it easy for yourself. And it's so sad to not have any feedback on whether that was helpful or not, so that I can improve for maybe future videos. So feel free to comment. But without further ado, let's get into the first tip. One of the biggest reasons why people quit their journeys is because they do too much too soon. And that goes for your physiology, but also your psychology. Research on training load and injury risk consistently shows a steep rise in injury rates when ramping up volume or intensity by more than around 10% per week. Physiologically, your tendons, your ligaments, and even your heart adapt slower than your muscles do. So even if you feel like you can get after it session after session in the first weeks consecutively in a row, and you feel like you can push yourself harder and harder, your connective tissues are most probably still playing catch up, even though your muscles feel fine to go. So the solution is to increase the training load and the training intensity slowly in the beginning to be able to stay injury-free for your journey. But not only physically, also mentally, we need to adapt to the new routine. Because once you nail the psychology of showing up, it will feel natural to you. Everyone who has tried a routine and then quit along the way knows that the real challenge is not to push yourself in the session or not to go really hard on yourself in the session and try to perform as best as you can. It's actually starting the session and getting there in the first place. Going for that gym session after a jam-packed day at uni, school, or in your job, or going for that run in an autumn rain was not what we had in mind when we wanted to start the training routine. Introducing something new, like the habit of going for your training, into a routine that is kind of automated already and externally controlled, for example, with your job or school and uni and other life responsibilities or time commitments that we have. Fitting in this new habit is kind of a struggle at the beginning because everything that is a new stimulus, and whether it is a habit or a training style or a training stimulus, can feel a bit weird in the beginning because everything else is just going so automatically already. Behavior science and its mainstream awareness through B.J. Fogg and James Clear suggests making habits tiny and frictionless. Instead of starting by planning a massive 1.5 or 2 hour gym session, start with a very, very easy, tiny one. And to make it even harder to skip the session, because now you have already chosen only a small little exercise or a small little workout that is kind of easy to do. To make it even harder to skip it, you can do small little things that take absolutely no time. For example, lay out your workout clothes the night before and put them on first thing in the morning. Or when you go to the gym, promise just a 5-minute warm-up. Once you start, you'll likely do more afterwards. This taps into the concept of behavioural momentum. Plus, research on habit formation shows that consistency matters more than intensity early on. And once these little steps are coming together and you do them once a week and kind of once a week feels normal, then you can add in a little bit more. You can make the session a little bit longer. You can add in a second day in the week, whatever floats your boat. That way it is easier to get actually started and then build from there, volume or distance or weight or whatever you want to do. Most people start their journey with an end goal in mind. Build muscle, lose fat, or reach a certain performance goal. And while having a goal is good for having a guiding star throughout your journey that you can remind yourself of whenever it gets really hard or tough in the journey, it is very important to focus on the process over the outcome. In this series, we have talked all about how you can tailor your journey and your training routine to you and your personality so that the process, the actual actions that you do, the training and everything around it feels natural to you and you enjoy that, so that the journey as such is already a process that you can enjoy and have fun with, instead of being too fixated on that one outcome you want to reach at the end of that journey. Because there will be days where you feel like you have no results at all compared to where you started. And this is where you should focus on the process instead of the outcome and how far away you are still of that goal that you have in mind. And I know that that sounds like kind of a broken record, but once you really nail that, you will enjoy showing up, even though sometimes results are not coming as fast as you would like them to come. Studies on motivation show that people who fall in love with the process, the feeling of moving, getting stronger, learning new skills, stick with it far longer than those only chasing a number on a scale or a stopwatch. This is the intrinsic motivation that we have talked about in the self-determination theory part of this series. And that is why finding fun in the process and the journey itself, instead of just fixating on that one outcome, is the key to long-term consistency. If you haven't watched that video, you can check that out there. Let's imagine we have covered all the tips. We have laid out our clothes, we go to the gym or we go for that run and everything feels smooth, but then the session feels so much harder than the session in week 2. And many sessions obviously are supposed to feel harder than the sessions we've done before, because consistently overloading or increasing distance or running faster or whatever you want to do in your journey is what is creating a new stimulus. We adapt, so we get better, and this is the kind of cycle how training functions. But of course, especially as a beginner, it can be demotivating if things feel hard all the time and you need to adapt all the time. And this is where managing your thoughts comes into play, because it is so easy to skip the 4th set because today the squats feel really heavy, or cutting that run short because it's raining today. And this is where managing your thoughts is so important, because once you start quitting small, you are more likely to start quitting big. So skip that session altogether because it's snowing outside, so why should I go for that run? I feel a little bit sore still after 3 days. The soreness is actually not that bad, but still, maybe I should quit it. And instead of quitting small, you can start to redirect your thoughts to different areas away from thinking about quitting. Because let's be honest, most of the time when we think about quitting, it's not that we are injured and we need to quit, because then obviously please quit. It's more so that we are tired and we feel a bit sluggish and unmotivated. And so to make it easier for ourselves, we can just quit. And in these moments, we don't necessarily need to, because our body still has the potential to go on. So why not use that potential to create the results that we are actually seeking for? What helped me, and also what sports psychologists use, is to redirect the thoughts. So for example, on a long 25-kilometer run, I hit that middle mark. And up until then, everything was feeling okay, but it's not one of the best days that I've had for running. And then I see on the map that I can cut it short. I could get out of the uncomfortable situation way earlier. And this is where I need to rethink the situation and remember that I'm doing this to prepare for a race, or to improve my endurance performance or my cardiovascular health, so that I can live a healthy and happy life long into the future. And this is where I need to think that I'm doing this for me. It's my decision. I'm in power of the situation, and the situation is not taking control over me. And with that intention in mind, that it is me and I have a choice, I'm more likely to take the choice towards continuing, because essentially now it's my responsibility to see my results, because I am in charge of controlling the situation. So redirecting your thoughts is very, very crucial for the success of your journey. And whenever you catch yourself thinking about quitting or thinking like this is too hard, remember all the times where you pushed through and were able to exceed the expectations that you had of yourself, or exceed the distance that you thought you could do. Remind yourself that you are capable of pushing through, even though it feels hard sometimes and we want to quit. One of the most powerful ways to turn good intentions into action is what psychologists call implementation intentions. Essentially, an if-then plan for whatever you want to choose. But in this example, I use for when and where you want to train. It's not just saying, I would like to train 3 times a week. It is saying, if it's 6 p.m. on a Monday after work, then I go and train in the gym. Research by Peter Gollwitzer and colleagues shows that forming these specific if X happens, then I'll do Y plans dramatically increase the likelihood of following through. This works because you've already made the decision in advance. So you don't have to do that in the situation, which reduces the mental effort in the moment and makes the behavior more automatic. How you can use it is you write down your weekly training schedule with exact dates, times, and locations. For example, if it's Wednesday at 7 a.m., then I'll start my 5-kilometer run from my front door. And pair it with an environmental cue, like leaving your running shoes next to your bed. So first thing you see reminds you of your plan. The more specific you get, the less room there is for I'll do it later negotiations with yourself. The 5th tip, and I probably sound like a broken record at this point, is to track and celebrate the small wins. I think I have included this in many of my videos, but it's very important, so I include it in here as well. One common mistake that people do in their journey is to not look at your results or celebrate anything until you have hit your end outcome or a very, very big milestone. And that can feel discouraging at times, because sometimes it takes a long time to get the next big milestone or the next end result of a journey. Science says that you should celebrate the small wins and celebrate more often than just for the big, big things that occur in your journey. Research on motivation and goal pursuit shows that visible progress boosts persistence and enjoyment. It is sometimes called the progress principle. Even small achievements release dopamine, which makes you want to keep going. And how you can use it is keeping a training log with details or metrics that you decide for yourself that fit your journey. Maybe your mood before and after the session, maybe how much you lifted, how far you ran, how fast you ran. Maybe it is taking progress pictures every 2 weeks to see how you are going on your body composition journey, or whatever it might be. It is good to have a training log where you keep track of what you are doing. And then it's important to highlight any progress that you do. For example, running an extra 500 meters, lifting 2 kg more, or simply showing up for every planned session that week. And the 3rd thing in that loop is to reward yourself, obviously in non-derailing ways, like taking a relaxing bath after a week of consistent training, or wearing that new gym top you bought after you've completed a set number of sessions. And over time, you'll start to associate your training with a cycle of effort, followed by progress, followed by reward, which makes it much easier for you to stick with it. If you are feeling like this is not tangible for you, I wanted to show you how each of these 5 tips you can incorporate into your week if you have an example goal. Let's say you start your training routine and your goal is to have 2 strength sessions a week and 2 runs a week. So the first tip that I gave you is to start small. Instead of jumping into a program with 4 sessions per week, you start with 1 strength session, which is maybe a full body session, and 1 running session. And the gym session doesn't have to be long. It can be 30 minutes only with a small warm-up, then maybe 1 lower body exercise, 1 upper body exercise, and a core exercise, and then a cool down or mobility kind of routine in there. It doesn't have to be much in the beginning, it's just to get you started so that you create the habit for yourself. Knowing what you want to do, so 1 strength session, 1 running session, when you plan out your week, maybe you are meal planning, maybe you are scheduling your appointments and everything like that, you incorporate the implementation intentions in that planning session as well. So you tell yourself, or you note it down somewhere, if it's Monday at 6 p.m, then I go straight from work to the gym for my strength session. If it's Saturday morning, then I start my run from my front door right after breakfast. And to make it even easier for yourself, your gym bag is packed the night before you go to work the next day, and your running shoes and running kit is ready to go so that when you've had your breakfast, you just have to put that on and go out for a run. If in that training routine, your goal is to do body recomposition or maybe lose some fat or something, you need to remind yourself in these weeks, because maybe it's week 3 of your training, or maybe it's even week 1 of your training, you need to remind yourself that your goal, if it is maybe to lose 5 kg or something, is not important. It is the process. It is being able to run the 5 kilometers that you have set for yourself, or it is being faster than the last time, or the heart rate is lower than the last time. So you focus on the process. You look out for the surroundings that you see on your run and appreciate the nature that you see, or maybe some nice buildings. You just make the process and the act of running, so how it feels moving your body, how nice it is to breathe the fresh air outside and stuff like that. You incorporate that into your thoughts and into how you look on your journey. And if it is hot outside for that run, even on a Saturday morning, then it maybe is getting hot around the 2.5 kilometer mark, and you think, I could just cut it short and do 3 kilometers instead of 5. And this is where you need to navigate these thoughts. You think, it's my choice, it's my goal, and I know finishing this last half will make me feel stronger mentally. That little mental redirect will help you to get through the session. Finally, you need to track and celebrate the small wins. So you come home from the run, no doubt I pushed through. I wanted to quit at 2.5 kilometers, but I ran another 2.5 kilometers. So the next time you go out somewhere and you feel like you want to quit and it's only 2.5 kilometers left, you know that you can actually do it because you've already done it once and you have already celebrated the small win with maybe taking a nice little bath, or maybe a cold shower after a run, or a nice refreshing beverage, or whatever you fancy to treat yourself after this run. And like that, in 1 week, maybe it is week 1 of your training, maybe it's week 5 of your training, you know how you can incorporate these little tips that will help you in your journey, especially from the mental side of things, to then achieve what you want to achieve performance-wise. So if you are starting your journey, remember, it is not a race or a competition to be there the fastest, because you want to stick with it this time. So start small, give yourself the time and the grace to get into it. It is a new habit. It's not going to be too easy, but if you really want to make a change, by following these 5 tips, you will stick with it this time. I hope you like this video. If you do, give it a thumbs up and please leave a comment what was most helpful for you. And with that being said, I'd say stay curious, look after yourself, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.